Yo, so I'm making an insight video. I know my last video I said how I don't like making insight videos because it comes across as advice. I don't like being put on a pedestal and whatever. Look, man, I don't know what to do, but I got a cool insight today and I want to express it somehow, even if it's just for my own purposes. So that's what I'm going to do, or I'm going to try to do. And the insight, and I'm also, I have some mints in my mouth, so if I do any weird mouth movements with my mouth, so sorry. But yeah, I can look at the camera or at the screen. At the camera, at the screen. Anyway, so this is the insight. It's very basic, very simple. I was having this experience today where I've just kind of been spiraling in my thoughts, spiraling. And a lot of those thoughts were like what I thought was the source of the thoughts. Like I was angry with something that happened specific or angry at someone. And in my mind, like that's the reason why I was feeling angry because of that thing that happened with that person or whatever it was. And then, I spiraling throughout the day, also yesterday a lot too. A lot of frustration, a lot of anger, a lot of like, oh my God, when is this difficulty gonna end? And I just did a Qigong session, which is basically for those of you who don't know, it's like a standing form of meditation. And eventually into that session, a lot of energy opened up, processed, a lot of stress was released basically. Even like in that session there was thoughts at the very beginning, and the thoughts were leaning towards like being very rigid, like I have to do something like this, I have to go to my BJJ practice tonight. And once I let that go is when everything started processing, and I like a whole bunch of stress release and I felt way better. And like that's when all those thoughts began to dissolve, and the thoughts about whoever I was angry at or whatever thing I was angry at kind of dissolved, which kind of leads me to the insight, which is that it's not that thoughts create emotions, like thinking about something makes you angry. There is some truth to that, but really what happens is your emotional state kind of acts as like a lens from which your thoughts are generated. I think this is an ongoing topic in psychology, and I'm not sure, like I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a scientist, so I don't know. I don't read the literature often at all, but I'm pretty sure it's a discussion about what comes first, emotions or thoughts. Do thoughts create emotions? Do emotions create thoughts? The truth probably is that there's a mixture of both, but generally where everything starts is an emotion. So you have some sort of emotion, and I think everyone has experienced this basically when you feel a certain emotion, your thoughts are like narrowed into this perspective. Even if you're just really tired, one day you're just really tired, you woke up on the wrong side of the bed, you're going to be thinking more negatively in general about everything because your frame of mind is made from that emotion of annoyance, of that emotion of not an emotion but grogginess, that physical felt sense of of frustration and discomfort. And for me, in this specific case, it proved very cleanly that the source of my aggravation wasn't what I was mad at. It was just energy that needed to be processed, emotion that needed to be understood and acknowledged. Specifically, the rigid sort of structure that I was forcing myself, like to go to BJJ tonight, when really I just kind of wanted to chill tonight and do whatever I want with my time. So I'm going to bring up an analogy or a map, a system. It's a bit technical, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. But there's a system called the eight Taoist models. I think it's what it's called officially, and it's a system of the human body. I'm only going to mention the first four for this purpose because the other four are pretty complex. But you have the physical body, and then later on top of that is the energetic body. On top of the energetic body, you have the emotional body, and then at the top of that, not the very top, but above the emotional body, you have the mental body, which is otherwise known as thoughts. And just for the purpose of this video, essentially anything that happens beneath a layer that's above it will affect the layers above it. So in the case of like, if your thoughts are very negative, there might be like a problem with your thinking that's wrong. You might need to think better, but almost always in most people, especially in Western culture, thoughts that are negative are caused by a framing of negative emotions or negative energy, which is a bit more complicated than emotion for most people to understand. But yeah, that's basically it. I'm not going to try and go all scientific on this shit. I've noticed when I try and be too precise about my explanations and talks, I don't like making these videos, and maybe that's part of the whole like I don't like giving insight talks is because I try to be too too precise and too specific with what I'm trying to say. When really all I want to do is just express this stuff and like put it out there for the world to see. These are just my opinions and my observations. So yeah, I'm just gonna leave it there. Peace.